We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. One conversation at a time. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. We breaking bread, yeah. One conversation at a time.
The Breaking Bread Village.
One conversation at a time.
The Breaking Bread Village.
One conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming back to another episode, another show, another conversation of the Breaking Bread Village. Really excited to have our guest on today. I'm going to bring her on so she can introduce herself. We're going to just talk about some viewpoints, some perspectives of feminism, of women empowerment, and so on and so on. So let me go ahead and bring her to the show. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, and if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Sure. My name's Shanti Landon. I live in Placer County in California. And I'm just here as an invite from you, and I'm super excited to talk to you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really do genuinely appreciate you being here to have this conversation. I'm going to let you just kind of give us a little, background on your upbringing. And I want to let the audience know the reason why I invited you here was for us to have a conversation. You know, we know Cardi B and the song WAP has gone all over the internet. I'm not really a big tabloid gossip person, so that's not really my thing. But the song and her lyrics did invite a lot of conversation, you know, at people's dinner tables, you know, in the media, circles of friends. It's really brought people kind of to the forefront in regards to conversation about woman empowerment. Some people say that's a woman empowering song. Some people say it's trash. So it's just this dynamic that's going on. So I want to talk about it. And again, not so much to focus on her and what she does, but just the idea behind what we consider woman empowerment, or what we consider, and I know some people feel like, with you being a white woman, Caucasian woman, how can you talk about Cardi B, and when it comes to empowerment for Black and brown people. But I want to talk about today empowerment for women and just kind of your viewpoint on it, because you kind of blew up a little bit in regards to something that you put out in regards to. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I want you to kind of give a background of yourself, because I am a firm believer that our experiences, our upbringing do shape us into, who we are and what we believe. So go ahead and introduce yourself and then give us a little bit of a background.
Sure. So I grew up in a small Northern California town as the youngest of 4 kids. And my dad was undiagnosed schizophrenic. He was not able to work when I was growing up. And so my mom supported us. And he was from India. So he came here when he was 17 and came with a, cultural perspective and religious perspective that women were subservient, supposed to serve their husband, and they were supposed to stay in line. And if they didn't, then you beat them into line. And that was really the perspective he came from. And so there was a lot of domestic violence in my house growing up, sexual abuse, and thank you. It was difficult. And of course, there were moments that I caught glimpses of the man that my mom married, and I saw why she married him. But unfortunately, that his mental illness just got worse over the years. And so when I was 6, when things got really bad in the house, I would go outside and sit on the side porch of our house. And so I was sitting there and I started praying. And at the time, I really didn't know who God was. I was not a Christian or anything. And I had been taught about the concept of God by my dad. But it was really God was kind of this vengeful being in the sky who was ready to strike you down when you did something wrong. And but for whatever reason, ever since I was really little, I always just had this sense that God cared about me. And so I'm sitting on the side porch and I'm just crying, and I begged God to rescue me. And it's one of the very few moments in my life, and this will probably sound crazy to anyone who doesn't believe in God. So I
okay.
apologize for that.
Don't apologize for what you know. Be you. Go ahead.
There are only a few times in my life where I felt like God spoke to me, and I felt like God just said, "Shanti, I'm not going to rescue you, but I will walk with you." And
Okay.
and so, over the course of my childhood, things were very difficult, but I always felt like it wasn't quite too much. Like there was always someone there, that whoever God was, because it took me a long time to discover who I thought he was.
Sure.
And when I was 9, my dad got arrested for beating my mom up. And that night, I was standing next to her. She's cooking these hamburgers on the stove. And I remember, there's those few memories where they're just so distinct. Like I can still smell the burnt hamburgers. It's crazy. And so she looks down at me and she says, "Shanti, your dad was justified in what he did."
Oh, okay.
And, here's little 9-year-old Shanti. I had no idea what that even meant. And, I forgot to mention back when I was 6 and I had that moment, I promised God that when I grew up, I was going to rescue a child. And that really was the force behind us adopting 4 of our kids out of foster care.
Okay.
And so, fast forward to 8th grade, and I was writing an essay and the word justified came up, and I was like, oh, what does that mean? So I go look it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my mom said my dad was justified in what he did. And it was like a switch was flipped in me. And I thought, I will never have a man hold me down, beat me up, tell me what to do. I will not be taken advantage of. And so for the rest of my, junior high school career, I guess, I had strings of boyfriends and I treated them all like crap. I was like, I will not be the victim. I will be the one creating the pain, I guess. And I treated everyone else great, but my boyfriends, I just treated horribly. And so fast forward to college, I get married, and all of that comes into my marriage. And that first 6 months was just really a nightmare because I had never dealt with any of that, sexual abuse or anything, and came into my marriage with this baggage. And I was so critical of my husband all the time, just tearing him down. And I was a wench. I was just horrible. And about 6 or 7 months into our marriage, he finally said, Shanti, I would throw out like, why don't you just divorce me? And he'd say, Shanti, I'm not going to divorce you. Yeah. He's like, I'm not going to divorce you. And so when he finally confronted me, he said, Shanti, listen, we're going to be married forever. I am not going to leave you, but I'm not going to let you treat me this way. And so you need to get help, basically. And so, and he was more than willing to walk with me through that, but he's like, you've got to get help. And it was the hardest, most difficult thing. And I was so resentful for what he did in that moment. But within moments, I was so thankful because he was the first one to stand up to me and say, this is not okay. Like, you are abusive. This is not okay. Yeah. And that completely turned my life around. And now we've been married 22 years. And I just absolutely adore him and I love him so much. And I can't imagine if he had given up,
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's a little bit of the history and context. And so, I know that my post made a lot of people feel like, I'm just this whitewashed, privileged person. And I just wanted people to know that, there's a lot that brought me to where I am. And so there's a little bit of history.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing that and for being, transparent and open, and, sharing kind of, some things that happened to you along the way to kind of get you where you are now. So thank you for that, because that's not always easy to share those things. But, I do want to talk about, so where we are right now. So that happened. And even in that perspective, with you giving that part of it, it does put some things in perspective for me in regards to, thought process, right? Because our thoughts are shaped by our experiences. That's just a given. So I do want to talk very briefly about some of the topics you discussed. So basically, just to give it, because it's kind of long. So just give it in a nutshell, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You were basically saying how happy you were, to serve your husband dinner, I'm looking at it kind of right, to allow him to take out the trash. Well, and you started off kind of talking about Cardi B and how vile she was. Use the word vile. And I think sometimes our wording, of course, triggers people, right? And I hate using that word trigger, but for lack of a better word, it gets people going, right, when we say different things. So you talked about, how awful it was for your ears and your eyes, and how vile it was, and that she was a broken person. And, let's see, and that you find honor to be called mom. You embrace femininity. You love to smile. You're incredibly satisfied that we sacrificed financially for 14 years so you can stay home with your kids. You're thankful for the gifts. Your marriage, is rock solid. You don't compete with each other. And then there's one more thing that I think, that you believe a true feminist can embrace her femininity without feeling like she needs to circumvent her man's masculinity. Being smart, capable, strong, and empowered as a woman means all of these things. It doesn't mean we need to discard our softness or delicate natures or apologize for allowing men to be men. True empowerment for women doesn't involve getting half naked and sexualizing ourselves. In fact, it sets us back. Women who have gone before us have worked hard to gain us the respect and admiration we deserve. Let's not throw it all away by reiterating the idea that we're just objects. So do you want to kind of, and that's just it in a nutshell, it was a little longer than that, but those are just some topics that stuck out to me. Can you just kind of sum up what your thought process was and what you were trying to convey?
Yeah. Well, so when I posted that, it was a follow-up to a post I had done on the Cuties movie. And I had heard all of these people saying, I'm canceling Netflix because of Cuties. And I decided to watch the movie for myself and determine whether I felt like it was as bad as what everyone was saying. And I felt like there was almost a dichotomy for me watching that movie, because the message to me was so powerful and so indicative of our society and what our young girls are experiencing. But at the same time, I also saw, I was nauseated watching some of the scenes where they're filming these girls, and I'm thinking, like, is that porn in and of itself? Like that they're filming this, so my post was a follow-up to that. And the reason I chose Cardi B was not because I have, just as a clarification too, I know you've mentioned that I said Cardi B was vile. I think, if I remember right, that I said her lyrics were vile, because I don't believe Cardi B is a vile human being. And to me, there's a clear indication and separation that who Cardi B as a person, to me, is completely separate from what I was addressing, which is the persona and the product that she's selling. And so to me, Cardi B as a person is a treasured, loved, adored child of God who is valuable and amazing, and a mom, and does all of these wonderful things. That's her as a person. But the product that she is selling, to me, and of course, this is just my perspective.
Oh, yes, that's what we're here to talk about.
When I posted, I know people said and accused me of like doing it on purpose to like start this firestorm, but really, I posted it on my personal page first, and then I thought, I haven't posted on my Life Made Full page for a while. I'll share it on there too. And so I expected the people who follow my page to see it, who many of them are like-minded. Obviously they're following my page for a reason. And so
Sure.
I really did not anticipate that it would be so offensive. And I feel like while using the terms that I use, let's just pull out the word feminism and how I said this is true feminism.
Sure.
Of course, I don't believe that the things that I listed are all encompassing of what true feminism is.
Sure.
But I think a lot of the backlash, is because I think I was not defining feminism the same way that I think a lot of other people were defining it. And so, of course, there's a dictionary definition of feminism. And I think that that's probably what most people were defining it by, which makes complete sense.
Sure.
But in my perspective, I was defining feminism as what I see in our society and what I see society telling me feminism is. And this is coming from, Christian woman perspective. I would say that in my perspective, when I hear the term feminist now, I think of this kind of mindset that we want to kind of push down men and say, hey, you had your turn, you've had thousands of years, it's our turn now. So move aside and let me do my thing. And then in addition to that, as I'm pro-life myself, and it's just, it's something I really care about. And and that's a whole other debate on when is a fetus a child and all of that.
Yeah, we've had that conversation on here too. That was interesting.
But I feel like as a woman who is pro-life, it doesn't mean I think anyone should be condemned. I don't think you can mandate morality. I don't think that's possible.
And I think just to interrupt real quick, I apologize. I think that's the way it came across though, was that there was a sense of judgment, on the way she carried herself. And I don't even want to just talk about Cardi B, but even though that's what your post is about, but I want to talk about how the differences even in culture, right? Sometimes how people view things and upbringing. So for me, growing up in the inner city, I saw women dancing all the time. We dance in the streets. We dance, under the street lights. We dance in school. In between breaks, we dance. Music is a part of the culture. It spoke life. So, and especially if you are a studier of, African dance, and a lot of these moves that they use, they've incorporated from a different culture, and did a little tweaking here and there, but a lot of that comes from a culture. So I think that again, when you said how people view things, when people hear certain words, it feels like an attack on a culture, a mindset, a way of life for some people. So I think that's what, especially when it came, I think the part where it said that she was a broken person. Can you explain that a little bit about what you mean by that, by her being broken?
Yeah. I get why this would really tick people off, because it sounds like I'm saying I'm judging this person because she's broken, when really what I thought I was saying was so some of the behaviors and lyrics that she's using, I see as similar to the way I was when I would say I was broken. I feel like it took me.
Okay, so you saw something in her that was once in you, is what you were trying to say. Okay.
And, I guess I see. So to me, glorifying kind of like taking advantage of people, or having sex with multiple people, or I feel like there's better. And I absolutely believe Cardi B and any other artist has every right to make whatever music and do whatever they want. I don't think that's not my job. Right. But I guess because, let's just talk about sex for a second. So in my opinion, sex is like a sacred thing. I feel like sex is a gift from God that was meant to be this kind of sacred thing between a husband and wife. Like, that's just my perspective. And I know there's a lot of people in the world who do not have that same perspective.
That's okay. We're sharing yours, so that's okay.
Yeah. But so I brought a little illustration because. Okay. So this is. I feel like this is a very good simplified version of like my version of this. Okay.
I'm a visual person, so go for it.
Okay. So let's just say this is a couple. Okay. I've got my green person and my tan person, I guess. And, you know, now they've done their deed, you know, and I feel like when that happens, then there is a connection with that person forever. Like whether it was a one night stand or whether it was, you know, forever and ever.
Oh, I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
And so like, I like to tear this apart and say, okay, so you can see that there are bits of, I mean, it's harder to see on here, but there are white parts on here. But you can see that there are still just a lot of little pieces here. And so when I am looking at the perspective of what artists are, you know, the reason I picked Cardi B was not because I had a thing for Cardi B or wanted to like call her out. It really was, I was trying to think of who could I give as an example that a lot of people would know about. And I think a lot of people in the bubble that I live in probably didn't. And honestly, I have realized now that they didn't know. They had no idea who Cardi B was. And so I feel like this is great for her because she got even more people going and checking out her music. So, but I only used her because I thought, who could I use that people may have heard of that they might be like, oh, yeah, I think I've heard of her. Let me go check out her lyrics, you know? But it had nothing to do with picking her in particular. It could have been a multitude of artists.
Well, let's just be honest. I mean, people are talking about her right now. She's she's been plastered all over the media because of this song. I mean, she's been on every conversation board. So
yeah.
I mean, sense that you would choose her as opposed to somebody else right now. So yeah.
So I forget now I forget what your original question was.
Well, me too. No. So basically we kind of are jumping on to different things, which is great. But we were talking about why you said she was a broken person.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And kind of how that.
Yeah. So it definitely has to do with, you know, and I get, this is where I feel like there will just probably be a difference of opinion, but I don't think that like a woman using her sexuality is necessarily a bad thing. I just think putting it out for the masses to me is, it's just a symbol and a sign of a certain sense of emptiness, I guess, and what I see at the end of that road is emptiness. I just see this like desire for to get, and you know, I get it. She's selling a product and she's doing a great job, by the way.
She's doing a great job.
And it's just that I feel like, and so it's almost like I didn't even want to speak to necessarily her and her responsibility. It was more supposed to be a call to us as people, as consumers, as society. Like what do we want to lift up and emulate? Like, who do we want our kids emulating and mimicking? And, you know, my kids are three of my kids are biracial, and one of my sons is Black, and my older son is, I mean, rap music is like innate within him. And it is so deep within him that I feel like I understand, like I can see it, because he obviously is growing up in a house where we naturally are not like that. We didn't grow up with that, but he didn't grow up with it either. It's just innate within him. And it's super cool to see, because it's like, it is just genetically like in his DNA that it's like, that's calming to him to listen. Like, to me, it would be like noise a lot of times, like, but to him it's calming. And but there was one time where I like saw one of the songs he was listening to, and I like read the lyrics, and it's basically talking about raping a woman. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't want him filling his head with that and looking at women that way. And so I printed out the lyrics and I asked him to read them out loud to me because I like wanted him to realize, because I don't think he did. I don't think he even knew really what the lyrics were saying.
Yeah.
We had a really good conversation around that about, I want him to have the freedom to listen to that, to listen to music that makes him. I have this quote from Confucius that says, if one should desire to know whether a kingdom is well governed, if its morals are good or bad, the quality of music will furnish the answer. And at the same that said, music produces a kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without. And so I feel like for someone like my son, music is life. Like
that's me all day. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't want to take that away. But at the same time, I feel like putting someone or I'm trying to think of the right word I'm looking for, kind of glorifying lyrics that I think are demeaning, and I know that other people would argue, no, those are empowering.
It's okay. I just want to tell you again, Shanti, this is about your viewpoint. Listen, I'm a very open person. I like people to be really transparent, so you don't have to, gloss over. You can tell me exactly how you feel, because I respect that. I respect people being, just totally open. I do want to ask you though, do you consider yourself a feminist? Because, I don't know. Sometimes I don't get into the whole feminist movement in regards to saying, hey, I'm a feminist. I think by nature, who I am, I've always been on a certain path my whole life. So I don't really have to make this state of claim like, hey, I'm a feminist. So, but do you consider yourself a feminist? And if so, because the reason why I ask that is because a lot of the argument based around what you said and what people similar to you say, especially people that are what some people would consider a little bit more conservative. Some of the dialogue has been, this idea that, okay, if you, whoever is a feminist, isn't that about embracing all of what a woman entails or supporting them in regards to giving them that freedom, allowing them that freedom, celebrating that freedom of them expressing themselves however they see fit. In some cultures, again, I will say, expressing the woman's body is totally, in that culture where, that feminine sexual presence of a woman's body is a part of the culture. So again, my question to you is, do you consider yourself a feminist? And if so or not, whatever, do you think that how you feel or view it goes against the whole, premise of what a feminist is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something I've really thought about a lot over the last couple of days because of course many people said you are not a feminist and do not use that word. I had someone say you don't have the right to use that hashtag, and I was like, okay. So I mean,
social media is interesting.
If you're looking at the dictionary definition, I would say I absolutely believe women should have every right that men have. I think we're of equal worth and value. I think, there should be, to me, and this is like, it goes back to me, the Bible clearly states that men and women in partnership are like, we're both made in the image of God. It's not that men were made in the image of God and we're kind of like the afterthought. No, we are as equal as men, 100%, no doubt in my mind. And I don't believe, like my sister, her husband cooks and she doesn't like to cook. And I feel like that's awesome. Like you do whatever works in your own relationship. I don't care. Like do what works. But I feel like I do think it's important to embrace roles in your relationship and to not fight each other for those kind of hierarchies. And whatever the roles are, I don't think that matters. Like, I think that should be up to those people. But where the term feminism, like just the word feminist gives me, it gives me an uneasy feeling now. And I feel like 20 years ago, I don't think it would have given me an uneasy feeling, but I feel like what feminist to me now has become more of what I was talking about a second ago, where it's pushed down men in order to raise women up. And then not only that, but someone who's pro-life is considered not feminist because you're not supporting a woman's right to choose. And I understand the logic, like that makes sense to me. I understand why someone would feel that way. But to me, there's a great deal of hypocrisy in saying we are true feminists, but we don't accept you, even though because you disagree with us. And that was like, to me, the most evident overarching thing that I saw over the last couple of days is that people were tearing me down and saying, you know, you're a horrible person, you're racist, you're, you know, all these things, and you're not a feminist, and I am. And I was thinking, but you're doing exactly what you're saying I just did, even though that wasn't my intention at all. I never wanted to tear down Cardi B. I wanted to give an opinion about a product that's being sold that I feel is harmful to our society.
And you really kind of pointed out that for you, if you feel like it is harmful for the feminine movement or you know, our movement, you know, and it's interesting that you said that thing about, you know, how people judged you and said that you aren't this. I think everybody does that these days. It's really kind of sad. That's the only word I can think of right now. It's really sad because, you know, and even a person like myself who are very open to different people's, I even get criticized for being too open. So it's this idea that, you know, if you don't agree with me, then you're not right. I'm right, you're wrong, and I don't want to hear from you anymore. And I think that's really the disservice, in my opinion. The fact that we don't have open dialogue anymore and respect that people see things differently. So for me, just to put this out there, because I know that you kind of assumed that we would be on this totally different, you know, spectrum. I don't really necessarily care for Cardi B. Like I don't think she's like this, you know, wonderful, like that. She's not really my thing. Okay. Do I support her? Hey, make your money, do you, because it doesn't, you know, it doesn't impact me that way. I do support women being able to express themselves. Like I don't like being able to, you know, censor a woman to make her feel like she's less than or I'm more than because I feel differently. Not saying you're doing that, just from my perspective. But I see both sides of it. I see how people can look at it and say, okay, you know, that's demeaning to women. But then to me, and I guess for me on a personal level, if that person, whoever it is, you know, feels like this is empowering for them, this makes them feel good, do what you need to do. Like for me, do what you need to do, you know, because again, music is so big in my life. It's such a huge component of my life, and even my day to day, just feeling good, or like depending on my emotion, that's what kind of music I'm going to play, right? And it'll just kind of help me just soar how I need to for that day. So yes, if I am, you know, in a reflective mode, I may have one type of music, but if I'm in a go get money, you know, I'm about to go conquer the world when I go, I may put on something that's a little bit more empowering to me. If a woman is saying, you know, I can do this, that, and the other, I'm gonna put that on because it does do something to the soul, the spirit. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that because just being totally transparent and honest, based on what you wrote, it did appear as though you were saying, I'm kind of up here because I do things this way, and she's down there, or anybody that does that or expresses themselves that way, you know, because I cook for my husband too, you know, you know, so I guess it was this idea of what did that mean? And not even in a judgmental way, but just help me understand what you meant when you said those things in regards to, you know, I like doing this because I know the lyrics. I've heard the song and I actually sat down and read the lyrics because I really wanted to understand the beef with this, because people are truly like, at each other's throat about this song. And I'm saying, why are people so vested in what her and, you know, Meg Thee Stallion is doing in regards to their life? You know, if that works for them, you know, even now with her filing for divorce, people are saying, you know, well, it's because of this, or she didn't cook. And it's like, again, we can't really say that because there's women that cook and clean all the time and do everything they can, and people still cheat. So let's get past that. And so help me understand what you meant by that. And I know you said, you know, you were trying to reflect kind of what you were going through, but help me understand, because it looked like judgment. So yeah.
And so again, I guess I would say, this was being a follow-up to the cuties thing. I was really trying to draw a correlation between the sexualizing of young girls and what is going on. And again, it's not just Cardi B. It's a whole thing. And you know, honestly, it's not even really about my own kids. Although my daughter was singing the lyrics to WAP, like, so she's 13. So it's not just about my own kids. I think really for me, I'm thinking about, I mean, adopting kids out of foster care and just seeing and I mean, I'm super passionate about criminal justice reform too, just because 85% of men in prison have been in contact with foster care and or have spent time in foster care. And so to me, there is a really big correlation. And I know a lot of people feel like it's not a big deal. And one of the things that I saw over and over is parent your own kids. Like, it's not Cardi B's job to parent your kids. And I completely agree. Like, it's totally not her job. And I believe her music is intended for adults, and she probably wouldn't want 10, 11-year-old girls listening. Maybe she would. I don't know. But
we don't know. So
I don't know. I mean, but like, I feel like I usually assume the best in people, that I think, you know, I don't think that that's what she would want, but I feel like,
let me just, Shanti, let me interject real quick. I'm sorry. And I think that is where some things can be seen differently when you say, you know, I see the best in people, or assume the best in people. Some people are very comfortable with sexuality. Some people are really comfortable with their young children learning, you know, body parts of what they're actually called, a vagina and a penis, as opposed to, you know, the little wee. You know, I mean, people are very open. So again, that's also based on perspective. You know, some people don't mind their children. And this is not advocating for whatever. I'm just being very clear and open that, you know, like even for me, some of the conversations that I may have had with I have all sons, when they were younger, probably would shock people that, you know, who keep their children underneath in this weird bubble. You know, me and my children have very open conversations, you know, because I wanted them to understand life. I mean, you know, to me, it does children, this is just my opinion, it does children a great disservice for them to turn 18 or 19 or 20, and then all of a sudden, oh, this is what's happening, you know, it throws them off. So, you know, that's just, I mean, we didn't do Santa Claus. We didn't do any of that. Cause I'm like, you know, and I understand. So I don't need people like, that's not even the topic, but I'm just saying I was just very transparent with them, very open about life conversations. I just want to interject there. So I'm sorry, because again, some people may be very comfortable, you know what I'm saying, with their children listening to that, but that's their household. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and just for what it's worth, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I don't know how many times we've told our kids, we do not want our faith to be your faith. We don't want what we think to be what you think. Like, we want you to ask questions, challenge things, find out why. If we believe something, ask us why, and go ask someone else who disagrees with us, and then you make the decision. And I mean, the goal when they graduate and leave our house is for them to be who they are and to feel like they know what they believe. I want them to figure it out for themselves. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. So but when it comes to what I wrote, you know, I was thinking about this Cuties movie and kids across our nation who aren't fortunate enough to have two parents in their house and have a mom who can sit, especially right now with COVID and distance learning, to have a parent who can sit there and supervise them and make sure that what they're looking at online is school and that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That that kids all across the country are spending all day by themselves looking at a computer screen, and we know what a lot of them are doing. And to me, the concern of, young boys who are going to be coming out of this pandemic with porn addiction, and young girls who look at things, I mean, even on something as innocent as Pinterest, that when my daughter turned 13, I let her have a Pinterest, and even on Pinterest, I mean, there's TikTok videos. It's almost everything that you would find on the internet. And and so it's not about making the people who are creating the content have to change. To me, it's really about asking ourselves as a society, like, shouldn't we be striving for integrity and character and consistency for our kids? And shouldn't we be, I feel like you were obviously an involved parent. And so I think for kids who have involved parents who care and who are having those dialogues with their kids and open conversations, I feel like Cardi B's music is not going to be, it's not going to be a big deal, because they've got the support and they understand that there's more than just that. But I feel like there's a huge section of the population of kids who don't have that. And all they're getting is what is being poured in by rap culture. And that's what they see, that's what they live, that's what they're, and I just feel like it's detrimental. And so I personally just feel like when we kind of uplift gangs and uplift kind of the stripper mentality, that it's just not beneficial for, and
no, I get that. I get that. And again, I just so let me tell you what I agree with you on. I do agree that people should be seeing what their children are doing, and we do understand that we can't ever see everything, because children are very smart and they know how to do things. But yes, I do believe that all parents should be involved in their children's life. That's a given, and I do believe that they should help them understand what's happening right in the world. So, okay, if this happens or you see this, okay, let me explain to you what's happening. Do you have any questions? Let's talk about it. How do you feel? So on and so on. But I do want to interject with the part of, rap culture and gangs. So I used to work at a school with the population was mostly Caucasian. It was an at-risk school, and a lot of their music was country. They listen to rap too, of course, but it was heavy metal. And some of the stuff on heavy metal is
I completely agree. Yes,
well,
I agree.
I'm just saying, a lot of times people put this thing out about rap culture, and I'm like, have y'all listened to heavy metal? Because some of it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'll never forget. I was sitting in a parked car one time outside of a store, and this car pulled up, and they were playing some type of heavy metal. And some of it you can't really understand because it's a lot of screaming. But then some of the word, and I'm like, die, 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 die. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So. So I do understand what you're saying, regards to that, but I just wanted to add in that this is it's so much different type of music and it's a lot of things. Even when you think about old school music, back from the 50s, some of that stuff was very, if you really listen to what they're saying, you're like, whoa, this might be worse than what's happening right now. It was just, they had a way, it sounded better.
Yeah. Well, and I would say the difference is there weren't kids that were unattended on computers. Like, I think that's the big difference, because when I was growing up, my parents had no idea what I was doing ever. My mom was in survival mode. My dad was wherever he was doing in his head. And had all of this been available when I was a little kid, I could see myself getting completely wrapped up in that, I'm going to sexualize myself because I want to get a man. And because I had that in me, I wanted approval from men because of my lack of my relationship with my dad. Sure. And had I had the internet and Pinterest and TikTok and Snapchat, I would have gone down a really different path. And so I think, to me, the difference is again, like, I think they should be able to produce that music, and I don't really care what adults are listening to. I mean, if you want to go do that, like, totally fine. It's really just these kids, and I'm really actually like looking forward to this conversation I'm going to have with this guy tomorrow.
I wanted to mention that I didn't have that on here to mention because I know you guys are going to.
Sorry, that's my kid. That's my dog.
That's okay. Don't apologize. This is live in real life.
Sorry. Hold on. Okay.
Yes, I did have this on here to support Jeremy, you know, in regards to that, because I know you'll be a guest on. So I did have that on here to talk about the impact of female artists, their lyrical content, and how it impacts the youth. You know, and again, you know, I think that this just goes. It's just perspective, you know. Oh, look. Hello.
This is my dog.
Oh, hello. Yeah, you know, I think it's all about perspective, you know, because you have some women that will, I mean, they'll twerk with their kids. I mean, they'll teach their children how to twerk and, you know, dance and different things. And if you are, and I know that you are, you know, you lean more towards conservative Christian, you know, but, you know, a lot of people that you talk to, especially that are into spirituality and being at one with the energy of the earth and, you know, what's around them. People love to dance and express themselves through that dance, you know, and not afraid of, you know, hips and, you know, the butt and moving all of this, you know, to really express who you are. And for a lot of people, including myself, when you do that, you feel very feminine. You feel very at one with your body, you know, because oftentimes, as you know, women are shamed about how we look, right? And we have so many different things that are mandated on us, like, you know, you have to look like this, you have to be this way, you have to be this size, you have to be this height, blah, 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 blah. And we accept that sometimes. So I think for a lot of women, when they start to listen to different type of music, whatever they choose, it makes them feel, you know, it empowers them. And that is their way of expressing themselves and their love for their body. So again, it's all about perspective, you know, because I wanted to ask you, I know we'll be closing here soon, but I wanted to ask you, what do you feel about when women, because I know you had some women that said, you know, well, you're just jealous, or, you know, it's because you're not, you can't move like that, or you can't do this.
I can't move like that, just so you know. I could try, but it would probably look really bad.
Okay. Hey, it's about just being free, man. Just move. But you know, seriously, what do you feel about those type of you know, comments?
You know, I actually thought about those too, because I'm like, is there an element of me feeling like, you know, I'm jealous? And really what I thought, you know, if I could swap places with Cardi B or any other multimillionaire, if they said, you know, ditch your husband and you can have this lifestyle, like, I'll give you $500 million, I would say, I don't.
Let's see. Shanti, you froze a little bit on me. Let's see if it'll come back. We're going to move her for a moment and hopefully she can come back on. It froze up a little bit on her end. Oh, man. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about, you know, how people feel in regards to the comments that, you know, and how she felt about, oh, there she goes. Let's see. There you go. Uh-oh. All right, there you go.
I'm using my phone now. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Yeah, but you were saying that if they offered you 500 million, you know, to leave your husband.
I'm so happy and content in my relationship with my husband and with the lifestyle that we live. And I totally understand that, you know, living the life I live is not for everyone. And I mean, the world would be so boring if it was. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I would hope that people would understand after watching this conversation that my intention was not to, I wasn't trying to put myself up on a pedestal. Actually, that like sickens me and makes me so sad inside that was the takeaway that people took, because I truly,
and you can see why. You can see why people felt that way.
I understand. And, again, that's like the danger of social media, right? Is that we say something and it's out there and then we've got to own it. And so I feel like, I don't apologize for anything I said. It does really make me sad that, this conversation couldn't happen at the same time of me posting that, so I could context. But I would say when it comes to like what you were talking about a second ago about, movement and dance and all of that, my husband spent a summer in Mozambique and Zimbabwe right after high school. And my two boys spent a summer 2 years ago in Malawi, Africa.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm super passionate about, all of our kids have been overseas without us. They've been to South America and Mexico and Africa and other places. And I think it's important to understand other cultures, because I think it is really hard for to understand. And I feel like, I'm never going to really understand your world because I haven't lived it. And so I think the most important is just be okay that there is. At the same time, it doesn't erase my conviction that I feel like, and it's not even, the dance moves to me aren't as much as the lyrics. I feel like, because I think there is a lot of interpretation in dance moves. I think that's not, maybe like what people are wearing and the angles of the camera and all of that is something, but I just feel like we as a society should want to show our kids integrity and commitment. And I feel like a lot of what comes out of the music industry in general is not that. And it's not their job to provide that, but they're only going to provide that if we want that. And if you're not asking for it, then we're not going to get it, because they're obviously there for money, and that's it's a business.
No, that's very true. Again, I respect you for standing by what you say. I truly, that's huge to me, because sometimes people, when they come to the table, they change drastically. Like, well, no, I didn't really mean that, and again, by reading it, we both can honestly say that we can see how it looks very judgmental, and again, for me personally, I believe that women can, if they want to cook dinner for their husband, they want to serve it to him. If they want to, allow him to take out the trash or do what people consider male roles, but that's a whole nother conversation. But if people, you can do that. And you can also be sexual. You can also be, feminine and in that, so I see both sides of it. I feel, I never want to come across where I am tearing down any woman, Now I would love to have a conversation with them, because I've seen women that I feel are doing themselves an injustice, or I feel like they are being counterproductive to their cause, but I'll pull them to the side, or I'll say, hey, can we talk about this? Help me understand, and give them my feedback if they want it. And we can have a conversation, a dialogue, but I never want to come across where I'm, putting down a woman for doing, I know a lot of people have been talking about, even with like service workers and, people in the industry that do different things, and they, oh, well, I would never do that, or they're trash. And it's like, you don't know their story. You don't know their journey. You don't know why they're doing it, or they could just want to do it. It's just, so I try not to go down that path. But again, I appreciate these type of conversations because it allows us to see each other and hear each other. Because of course your life has been different than mine. Your experiences have been different than mine. So the way you've been molded or shaped, so to speak, is different than myself. So that's why it's healthy, in my opinion, for us to have these kind of dialogues, to be able to kind of understand the perspectives, because again, like I told you before we got on here, when you go into these boardrooms and you go into these community rooms and you're trying to make change, you have people sitting at that table from all different walks of life. And you have to be able to see them. You have to be able to hear them, to be able to collectively work together to make change. So I appreciate you for doing this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super glad we got to have the conversation. And again, I really appreciate just the fact that you give the opportunity to people to kind of give more context to things and to ask hard questions. I think that's important.
Yeah, so much stuff can get lost in translation when you're texting stuff, because I know for myself, like if everything if everything that I thought at that moment I wrote, right, about different things, honey, I tell you, people would be like, oh my gosh. For one day they'll think that because at that moment, this is where I'm at on this. And again, they don't understand what's been in my brain, that I've been thinking about, what led up to it, what conversations was before it, where am I feeling about it at this moment. Like people know none of that. They have none of the backstory. So, and that's why I'm a believer that sometimes we have to just take a pause, right, and process, because it's that, because like you said, once stuff is out there, people hold you to that and they judge you by that, unfortunately. But that's the world we live in now, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the word we live. So anyway, I thank you. I know you're trying to hold up your phone and still try to, so I won't hold you. But again, Shanti, thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation. I appreciate, you being transparent in your viewpoint. And I think that a lot of people share your viewpoint, and a lot of people are kind of in the middle, and some people are like, hey, who cares? But the part that I find unfortunate is that a lot of people base her movements, her song, her lyrics on Black people or Hispanic people. And I think that part is really sad, because there's a lot of judgment that comes, from that. Would you agree with that on some levels?
Yeah, I think so. And I think generalizations are sometimes good, but I think a lot of times, and so I think nowadays, especially, trying to shy away from some of those generalizations and to really rules and to say, let's take the situation as what it is and not lump it in because of preconceived ideas of what we think about something else.
Yeah, I agree. Again, Shanti, thank you so much. I'll let you go so you can rest your arm. So thank you so much again, and we will keep in touch. Thank you so much for your perspective, and thanks for coming on, okay?
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Okay, awesome. Well, that was another great conversation. I'm really excited that she came on and gave her perspective. I am a person that I believe in going straight to the horse's mouth. I don't like speculation, assumptions, guessing, and all of that. I'd rather just talk to the person. And a lot of times you realize that you can, if you're both, mature and able to be open, you can have really good, meaningful conversations. And even at the end of the day, if you agree, if you don't agree, that's okay. That's life. That's how life works. But the important thing is to be able to be respectful, to be able to see each other and hear each other. And so maybe you can understand each other. And then that's when you get to empathy, and you can empathize with each other and just kind of be able to still walk together, even if you agree or disagree. So that's a beautiful thing. And once you get to that point in life, so much peace comes from that. So again, thank you, Shanti, for coming on, and she will be on another show tomorrow talking about that and more in regards to the actual lyrical content and how it impacts the youth, or doesn't impact the youth. I'm sure they'll be talking about that, so I'm going to tune in to watch that on Jeremiah Rankin's show. So all right, well, you guys have a great day. This is early for me, so now I have the rest of the day to do nothing and do something and bug my husband and be outside a little bit. So we did it early today, so that was great. All right, you guys have a great day, and enjoy your day. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.